I never thought the worst day of my life would also become the day everything finally started making sense. My name is Sophia, and for 25 years I believed I knew exactly who I was. I was the quiet, well-behaved daughter of Richard and Alina Thompson. We lived in a beautiful house in the suburbs, the kind with the white fence and the perfectly trimmed lawn. From the outside, we looked like the ideal family. But inside it always felt like I was borrowing space in someone else's home. I spent years trying to earn a love that should have been given freely. I got straight A's, I never missed curfew, I learned to cook Mom's favorite meals, and I smiled through every passive comment about how I didn't quite look like either of them. "You take after your grandmother," they'd say, even though I had no idea which grandmother they meant. I convinced myself that every family had its strange little distances. I told myself I was lucky. But deep down, I carried this quiet ache, a feeling that something was missing, a sense that I was always one mistake away from losing the only people I had. The night of my 25th birthday, that fear became reality. We were at La Belle Epoque, the same upscale French restaurant where they had taken me for every important milestone. I wore the soft emerald dress I had saved for months to buy. I thought tonight would be special. I thought maybe, finally, they would look at me and say they were proud, that I was enough. I had no idea that by the end of the evening, they would shatter my entire world in front of strangers. And I definitely had no idea that my real family was sitting just 3 tables away, watching everything. Let me take you back a little so you understand how we got there. I grew up hearing stories about how Mom and Dad chose me. They always framed it like I should be grateful. They had tried for years to have children, they said, and then God brought them me. I believed them. Why wouldn't I? They gave me everything material a child could want. Private schools, piano lessons, ballet, but emotionally, it always felt conditional. If I got less than an A, the silence in the house was deafening. If I talked back even once, I was reminded how they rescued me from an unknown fate. Love in our house had to be earned every single day, and I was exhausted from trying. By the time I turned 24, I had started building my own life. I had a good job as a graphic designer, my own small apartment, and a few close friends who felt more like family than my own parents sometimes did. But I still showed up for Sunday dinners. I still called Mom every week. I still tried. Then came the birthday. I arrived at the restaurant a little early, excited. Dad had made the reservation weeks ago. When I walked in, they were already seated. Mom looked beautiful in her cream blouse, but her smile was tight. Dad barely looked up from his phone. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," Mom said, kissing my cheek. Her voice was flat. We ordered appetizers. I talked about the new project at work, about how I was finally feeling confident in my career. They nodded politely. Then Dad cleared his throat. "Sophia, there's something we need to discuss." Something in his tone made my stomach drop. I laughed nervously. "Can it wait until after we order the main course? It's my birthday." "No," he said, "it can't." That was when the nightmare began. He told me they had been thinking about this for a long time, that raising me had become too heavy, that I was an adult now, and it was time for me to stand on my own completely. Mom sat there silently, twisting her napkin, not meeting my eyes. I thought it was a cruel joke. I laughed again, but the sound died in my throat when I saw their faces. Dad continued, voice cold. "We've decided we're done. We're not your family anymore. We raised you out of obligation, but that obligation ends today." My hands started shaking. "What are you talking about?" Mom finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "We adopted you, Sophia, but we never really felt like you were ours. And now, we don't want to pretend anymore." The words hit me like ice water. Adopted. They had never told me. 25 years of lies. 25 years of feeling like I had to earn their love because deep down they never wanted me in the first place. I sat there frozen as they stood up. Dad dropped an envelope on the table. "This is the last money you'll ever get from us. Don't call. Don't come to the house. We're finished." They walked out. Just like that. On my 25th birthday, in front of the entire restaurant, my parents disowned me. I couldn't move. Tears streamed down my face as I stared at the untouched appetizers. The waiter approached hesitantly, asking if I was okay. I couldn't even answer. That's when I felt it. Someone was watching me. I looked up through my tears and noticed a woman at a table 3 rows away. She had the same dark, wavy hair as mine, the same shape of eyes. She was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. Next to her sat a man who looked like he was fighting back tears, and 2 younger people who seemed frozen in shock. I didn't know it then, but those were my real parents. My biological mother, father, and siblings. They had been searching for me for years, and by some cruel twist of fate, they had chosen the same restaurant that night to celebrate a small family reunion of their own. They had just witnessed my entire world collapse. I left the restaurant in a daze. I don't remember driving home. I just remember sitting on the floor of my apartment surrounded by birthday cards from friends, crying so hard I thought I would never stop. The next few weeks were hell. I replayed that dinner in my head every night. The cold way Dad spoke, the way Mom wouldn't even look at me, the casual cruelty of 25 years of deception. I felt worthless, invisible, thrown away like something broken they no longer wanted. I stopped eating properly. I called in sick to work. My friends tried to help, but I pushed them away. The pain was too deep. But one thing kept haunting me, that woman's face, the way she looked at me. There was something there, recognition, pain, longing. 2 weeks after that horrible night, I received a letter, no return address. Inside was a simple note. We saw what happened at the restaurant. We think we know who you are. If you're willing to meet, we'll be at the same restaurant this Saturday at 7 p.m. Table by the window, no pressure. Just know you are not alone. My hands trembled as I read it. I almost threw it away, but something stronger than fear made me go. That Saturday, I walked into La Belle Epoque again. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I approached the table by the window. The woman stood up first. Tears filled her eyes. "Sophia," she whispered. I nodded, unable to speak. She stepped forward and gently touched my face. "I'm Anna. I'm your mother." The man beside her stood too. "And I'm Michael, your dad." The 2 younger people, a brother and sister I never knew I had, came around the table. They were crying. We were all crying. They told me the story I had waited my entire life to hear. 26 years ago, Anna had been young and scared. She was only 19 when she had me. Her family was strict, and the circumstances around my birth were complicated. She made the heartbreaking decision to place me for adoption, believing it was the best chance for me to have a stable life. But she never stopped thinking about me. She and Michael, who reconnected years later and married, searched quietly for me for over a decade. They had only found me 3 months before my birthday. They were planning to reach out gently. They never imagined they would witness my adoptive parents destroy me instead. Sitting there with them, hearing their voices, seeing my own features reflected in their faces, something inside me began to heal. But the pain was still there, and slowly, that pain started turning into something else. Anger. Quiet, burning anger. I realized I had spent my whole life shrinking myself for people who never truly wanted me. I had apologized for existing. I had tried to be perfect for a family that saw me as temporary. I was done. That was the moment everything changed. I decided I would no longer be the girl who cried on her apartment floor. I would become the woman who took her power back. The first thing I did was change my last name legally to my biological family's surname, Rivera. Sophia Rivera. It felt like coming home. Then I started documenting everything. Not for revenge at first, but for myself. I wrote down every cruel word my adoptive parents had ever said, every time they made me feel small, every lie about my adoption. With the help of my real family, I discovered even more. Richard and Alina had received money when they adopted me, a private arrangement with certain conditions. They were supposed to tell me the truth by age 18. They never did. And they had been using the connection to my birth family's distant relatives for social and business advantages for years. They had built their perfect image on my existence while treating me like I was nothing. So I decided it was time the world saw who they really were. I didn't scream or make a scene. I did something quieter, more powerful. I created a private but carefully targeted post, not on public social media where it could look like drama. I sent it to their closest friends, their church group, their business associates, and a few local journalists who covered community stories. In it, I simply told the truth. I shared the facts of my disownment on my birthday. I shared how I discovered my biological family had been 3 tables away, witnessing their cruelty. I attached photos of the bruises on my heart, not literal ones, but the emotional kind. Old childhood photos where I looked painfully out of place. The letter from my real mother. Screenshots of the final bank transfer they sent as severance. I didn't call them monsters. I simply told the truth and stepped back. The response was overwhelming. People who had known them for years were shocked. Some reached out to me with kindness. Others distanced themselves from Richard and Alina. Their church group quietly asked them to step down from leadership roles. Business partners started pulling away. The perfect image they had spent decades building crumbled. But my revenge wasn't about destroying them. It was about freeing myself. I started spending real time with my biological family. I learned I had a younger brother who loved art just like me, a sister who had prayed for me every night growing up, parents who cried with me when I told them about all the years I felt invisible. We took a trip together to the small coastal town where my biological grandparents still lived. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by people who looked like me, who hugged me without conditions, who celebrated my existence instead of tolerating it. I also started therapy, not to fix myself for others, but to heal the girl who believed she was unworthy. 6 months after that birthday from hell, I stood in my new apartment, closer to my real family, surrounded by people who loved me. I had a promotion at work. I had started painting again, something I gave up years ago because Alina said it was a waste of time. One evening, I received a message from Alina. It was the first time she had reached out since that night. It was short. "We didn't expect this. Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. Then I did something I never thought I would have the strength to do. I blocked the number. Not out of hate, but out of love for myself. I realized I didn't need their apology. I didn't need their guilt. I didn't need them at all. The girl who was disowned at her own birthday dinner died that night at the restaurant. And the woman who rose from those ashes, she is free. She knows who she is now. She knows where she belongs. And she knows that sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't loud or dramatic. It's simply choosing to live a beautiful life without the people who tried to break you. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt unwanted, unloved, or thrown away, I want you to hear me. Your worth was never dependent on the people who failed to see it. Somewhere out there, the right people are waiting to love you exactly as you are. And when you find them, or when they find you, you'll understand that the pain was only preparing you for something better. I'm Sophia Rivera, and this is my story. Thank you for listening. If this resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that they are not alone. You are seen. You are worthy. And you deserve a family that chooses you every single day.